And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Kim, do you mind doing roll call, please?
David Gibbons.
Here.
Kara Hanson, absent. John Doolan.
I am present.
Gus Sedona.
Here.
Sam Morocco.
Here.
And Supervisor Fennell.
Absent. All right, so review of agenda. Do we need to make any additions or deletions? This was put, I just handed this out, so.
I'll just wait till he's done.
Okay.
What, I think you were, are you adding this?
If you were
okay.
about to add this, John, that's fine. I was just gonna say this was not part of the packet, but it was put on the board. It's just an update from Chris Nordstrom for the design guidelines for Dixie Highway status update.
You wanna add that to the meeting?
John wants to add it.
No, he doesn't, I think John wants to do something different.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can add that to the meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to make an amendment that we add that to the meeting?
Is there something else you wanna add?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm,
can you-
let me do this one first.
Sure.
I'm gonna make a motion that we add the design guidelines discussion for Dixie Highway status update to tonight's meeting under, reports, resolutions, and recommendations. Where do you wanna put it?
Just put it under,
Wanna make it number
under
4?
one,
4.
under, number 4, yep.
Okay, number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. All right, Mr. Doolan?
Yeah, I would like to add also as a number 5 under reports, resolutions, recommendations, discussion. And the discussion I'd like to have is, there's been a lot of discussion lately in the public and on social media regarding the DDA's relevance. And I'd like to just have a conversation about that and just a little educational session on how we came to exist, how we're funded, and what happens to those tax dollars if we don't recapture them into our local community.
All right.
Support.
All right, that's a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll get that added to number 5. All right, next item, E, we need to approve the minutes from our last meeting, July 15th, 2026. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as written from July 15th, 2026.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Presentations, line F, we don't have any. Public comment, we don't have anybody from the public online or here, so we will move to H, which is financial matters. There's a report prepared by Carlisle. It looks like he's in here, but I don't, it says declined, okay.
Yeah, I don't see him.
So, financial matters. So this kind of goes into what John was talking about. So, as you all know, on our last primary election ballot, there was a proposal to increase and continue a millage for police millage. To some, it was written kind of oddly, and some of the public that I talked to sounded like there was just an increase in taxes. After looking a little bit closer, I guess it was a continuance of the millage that we already have. And so, you guys, you're on the
Yep.
board, did you guys vote to add that to the November ballot?
We did,
Okay.
except for with changes.
Okay,
So we consolidated the school resource officer money into the main millage as it had always been, so we didn't separate it this time. So there, we agree that the residents have a millage fatigue. So we did put up for a renewal, not a renewal, or a renewal would be with no increase. We went from 282 to, was it 3? Oh man,
3.2?
3.2 maybe it was, and that was to cover the 10% annual increase that Oakland County Sheriff's has put down on us for the next 3 years. So going at the same rate wouldn't have covered the cost of it over the 4 years of the millage. And also the consensus was that if we didn't do it now and covered the cost with our extra money that we had, that we would then have to ask when that expired. We'd end up asking for a lot bigger millage later. So we thought that a less than $100 a year increase to the current taxes to cover the police would be more palatable than to not do it this year and then ask for a really large increase in 4 years from now. So that's just a brief summary of what we happened. We're planning on educating it. The discussion we'll have later, with John is all part of getting people to understand that it was not a new tax. It was just to renew the tax that we had with a small increase to cover the costs that we're having to absorb from Oakland County to cover the cost of the sheriff's department.
Okay. And why that's relevant to the DDA is because we are a tax increment finance. So that means that we get a percentage of each millage based on the increase in the taxes. So if this millage was to be gone, it would affect the amount of funds that we would have to work with. And so they, the Carlisle group had written up that essentially what that means is starting in 2027, we would have, with the millage, we would have a total of essentially $560,000. Without the police millage, we would have a total of $447,000 to work with, which is a shortfall of about $111,000. And then in 2028, it would be a shortfall of $119,000. 2029, a shortfall of $127,000. And then in 2030, a shortfall of $135,000. And that's how our budget. So when the budget was created by Carlisle, it was assuming that this was going to move forward. Right?
Correct.
So if it does get voted down, then we'll be short on what we budgeted for. We'll have to adjust. I mean, we do work for the people of Independence Township. So if they don't want it, then that's what we'll have to do. But it's important that we as a board and other community leaders, communicate well to voters that, where the money's going, why we need it. Obviously we need policing and safety.
Can I just briefly expand on how the increment works?
Sure.
So for the DDA in 2023, when it was created, there was the difference in just the incremental difference from 2023 to today, how the taxes went up. Only that amount is what is captured. So it doesn't change how much you pay for your taxes. It doesn't make taxes cheaper if we don't capture it. Instead of that money going into the general fund, we get to reinvest it in the corridor. The benefit of it is that we also get to capture all the other incremental taxes that would have been increased, that would have went to the mass transit, the Oakland University, the Detroit Zoo, the DIA, and everything else, the county, all of their taxes. So the small amount that we capture only from the people who own property in the district allows us to retain all that other incremental taxes that would have left the township. So we actually come out ahead, and it doesn't cost us anymore, and it has no bearing on how much you pay for your taxes. But that's some of the education that we're going to try to get out to people, because they don't understand why it's listed.
Mm-hmm.
They think that they're getting a piece of the police money, but that number doesn't change how much the millage is and how much we collect, So
Right.
just as much as we can keep explaining to people that are watching over and over to try to get that point across, you know?
Yeah, I think to the average person that was voting in August and even probably in November, they're, without being informed, they're gonna think, my taxes are going up, I don't want it.
Right.
That's what they're gonna initially think. So it's important for, again, community leaders like ourselves and others to explain. Then they can make a decision based on their conscience.
It's about $100 increase for the average priced home in Independence Township annually. It would go up about $100.
Or 100,000 or?
No, $100 altogether for the average price of the house to go, the millage is gonna, we're asking for that to go up $100 a year to cover the expenses of the county, which everyone knows that prices go up, you know, so, and if it doesn't, and it doesn't pass, then that's going to probably that'll bankrupt all of our savings within 2 years of the township. All the money we were planning on investing back into the community would just be gone, so,
Are you saying the township or the DDA?
the township itself and the DDA is also gonna lose these, will
It'll be
lose all of
affected.
this, investment into the corridors too, so.
Sure. Any other comments on that? There's one other section I need to read off of this. Okay, so it says current financials, the financial report from July 31st, 2026 indicates that the DDA remains operating within budget. The major expense has been for consulting expenses for the Gateway Park and the safety path study. Expenditures for Gateway Park are not yet reflected in the current financial since work has been delayed. However, work is expected to commence in mid-August, which it is mid-August.
Yeah.
So that is the
Been a long road.
financial matters. H, any comment, question before we move on from that? Does everybody understand how that millage not being passed is going to affect our budget?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, I, reports, resolutions, and recommendations. Current activity report, and we've got Dixie Highway Gateway project, and I think that's why Mr. Woods is here to talk about that.
So Tim Wood with No Active Frost Engineers. Good evening, board. Here to add some additional information to the letter that was provided on August 6th. That is, the well is scheduled to be installed within the next week or so. The electrical is roughly 2 weeks out. Once the electrical is obtained for the pocket park, then they will continue and start moving a lot faster. So once they get the electrical in, they're going to then proceed with the site work and the civil work, so it will begin to take shape a lot quicker than it has been. And then we do expect that they are still on target to meet their contractual requirements for the fall completion of the project prior to the end of the year.
Okay. Do you have any update? I didn't drive by today. I planned on it, but I was stuck in the office. But I think I was by there yesterday. There wasn't any activity going on.
Yeah.
Do they have a start date? I understand we were waiting for some underground materials. They got those middle of last month, and they probably put other jobs into place and kind of had to put ours in the back burner. Do we have, now that we're in the middle of August, do we have like an actual start date from Premier?
Immediately, it's little bits here and there. So with the well installation, it'll be a few hours. It's not necessarily going to be visible immediately. Once the electrical is installed within, basically 2 weeks out is what that's scheduled for. Then everything's going to start going a lot quicker. So once they get the electrical installed, they will be following up with the civil, the site work, the storm, everything else, and getting that going. So it will start going a lot faster as that,
Okay.
2 weeks out.
So this, I would think that the storm would go in almost first. The underground stormwater products that they were waiting on.
Mhm.
But you're saying that the electrical, they're waiting on the electrical, because I see in here, it says that they haven't even ordered the electrical permit yet. They have the well permit, but they don't have the electrical permit.
Yeah, I can follow up with them and see if that has been applied for yet.
Okay.
And if not, then I will push for them to apply for it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to sound frustrated, but I'm frustrated that it's taking so long. You know, and the weather's gonna start to change, traffic's gonna pick up from schools, and, you know, it would have been, I guess, nice to know if this was gonna be delayed. So now that we are finally getting, you know, roundabout dates, it'd be nice to see people working over there, because I don't see anybody working over there. And I'm not blaming you, but.
I think these guys are big school contractors. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're wrapping up their school projects before they start our project, is what I would, if I had to guess it. You know, cause that's what I think, we were told, that's one of their, that those guys are big school contractors, you know?
Yeah.
So,
So not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, the end of September, we should be looking at all the underground being completed?
It will be beginning by the end of September. Yes, it should all be done by then.
By the end of
Yeah.
September. So then from there, we're looking at a couple more weeks for the rest of it to go in, or, so, like October, end of October, there should be everything completed, 100%.
There's a fall planting window that is in the contract that they're scheduled to meet. Technically, they couldn't plant right now because of the weather, the temperatures and everything else. So with the initial delay in the delivery of the stormwater materials, they're targeting to be planting in that fall window, which I don't have the exact dates offhand, but they have to plant in that window per the contract. So that's what their plan is to be planting within that window, the fall window, so that the plants have the best chance of survival. And then the, everything else is, you know, hinged around that.
Yeah, so fall goes into November, so you're still looking at before Thanksgiving, that then still would be fall, so they could feasibly be working into it till the 1st of December.
The contract states that they have to be done by November 15th.
So that's what that will be the ultimate push for date.
Yes.
You said November 15th?
November 15th.
Yes.
opening day. Gotta get it done before deer hunting season. Everybody leaves.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, and it says here that you guys have been in coordination with the sign company as well, so I'm sure they're, any idea if they've started production of the sign? I would think in this time they probably would have
Yeah,
had it completed.
the last I heard from Sign Graphics, they were ordering the parts was in July. They had indicated that there was a slight delay in receiving their materials, and they wanted to coordinate that with Premier. So it's my understanding that they have that. They should be proceeding, you know, with their stuff in shop, and then Premier is going to dig and install the foundations for the sign, and then Sign Graphics is going to come and do the final above grade work for the sign.
Okay. Are you here to talk about the DDA Dixie Highway Pathway Enhancement Site as well, or just the Gateway part?
So with regards to the Dixie Highway site and the White Lake site, I don't have any additional information from what was provided on the August 6th letter. However, I'm happy to relay that information or read it to you if you'd like, but I'm sure you have it.
Yeah, we have it right here. It doesn't sound like too much has changed. Sounds like they gathered the information that we provided last time they met with us, and they're working on creating some designs. Okay, any questions for Mr. Wood while we got him here? Where he takes off? Okay. So, I think the original RFP for the park was supposed to be like a 60-day project. And I remember seeing something about, there was some type of penalty if they didn't, complete in time. Obviously, I'm sure there was built-in weather, there was built-in probably material, having to wait on materials. But once they get started, I'm hoping that they can finish this thing in 60 days, because that's what they agreed to. Especially since we gave them the green light, I think in May, is that when we voted on this? To move
Had to
forward
be-
with,
Seems like that,
No,
though,
it
Joe.
was before that.
Even before that?
Yeah. it
maybe
was
April. Again, we're not, you're just here, and they're not. But I think that you're involved in making sure that they're staying pushed, so hopefully we can, guide them in making sure that this gets done and show them the broader picture of, I would have thought this would be a great opportunity for them to, knock out this one little park for Independence Township, and then next time they want to bid on something in the township, it's like, yeah, you guys did such a great job. I'm not saying they're not gonna do a great job, but we're moving real slow for this project. And, yeah, every day I drive past that site, I'm like, man,
It's rough,
it's orange,
very rough.
orange fencing.
I hear it from all the neighbors sometimes.
I'm sure the, the
Like,
sportsman's
what happened
club.
to you guys? You guys quit?
Yeah, right. All right, well, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can get an update if you just want to email us, and, when you get a status update from them of their start date, that'd be fantastic.
Sure thing. You could pencil it in for basically 2 weeks out after the electrical is installed.
Okay.
That's what we've been told.
Okay. All right, so they're
Yeah.
they're waiting on their electrical permit, it sounds like.
Yeah, they only had 6 months to get it, so. It takes a few weeks,
Yeah.
so that's not really a good excuse, but whatever. It is what it is, we're
I
stuck
think
now.
that, like whoever does their scheduling, they should have
Mhm.
be on it.
All right.
To get the electrical.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Tim.
Appreciate it. All right, so the next line item here is the Dixie Highway Gateway Park discussion about adding irrigation. So I wanted that added to this packet because it was brought up maybe 2 meetings ago. We were talking about the Sashabaw corridor and how that, it doesn't look very good. And, it's a lack of maintenance, it's a lack of watering. And I think there is irrigation there, but I don't know that for certain. Either way, that had me thinking that, we initially had planned on having irrigation at the Gateway Park. Then we got rid of it because of the type of plants that we're using. I don't wanna see us, have to come back to, I don't wanna see what we've done and finally get to and have this park, and it just kinda goes to shambles, or we have stuff dying and we're having to replace it. And, there will be a well on site. We're gonna have to figure out who's gonna make sure that this stuff stays watered. I believe that Premier is on for either a year or 2 after planting to make sure that they survive.
It's just 1 year.
Okay, but, so 1 year, but who takes care of it after that? So I just really just wanted to, we don't need to vote on anything, but I just kinda wanna have a discussion amongst the board of what we think. It's always something too that we could do as an afterthought. Once the park is in, you can add irrigation. Plenty of people add stuff after the fact, but I think it's worth exploring.
I would say if there was grass, for sure. I don't think we're planting any, so we're counting on the native species to survive once they're rooted, I think is the goal, so I'm on the fence of whether we wanna go after, try to fit it in now and have them use that as a whole nother delay, or if, do it as a need, if need be, since we are investing in the well already, and the capacity would be there, but that's just my initial thoughts on it.
I can see your
Well, I'm just,
ears moving.
anytime Sam says something that makes sense, I get a little
Flustered?
Yeah, because I'm like, wow. But I would agree with that. I think that any type of irrigation that we might need would be minimal. I do understand the concern for it, and one of my concerns, as Gus has mentioned, is part of the reason we have to defend the DDA is because we kind of look a little incompetent right now because we couldn't get a single park built. And so, I understand where you're coming from to say, should we? But I also agree with Sam. I think that it's something we should talk about once everything's gone in, because it is something that could be added later, specifically because we do have the well going in, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with Sam.
Okay.
I know, it's on camera. I
Yeah.
know it's on YouTube.
Joss?
I have an opinion that I think I expressed at the beginning of this project, that I think that the watering system should go in at the time we're doing all the construction. Costs would be cheaper. It can be very minimal. I don't think we need a lot of heads, but while you got it all tore up, it's a lot easier to put in, which would relate into costs. So I think financially, it's wiser for us to spend the money now than wait and tear it all up later. So my feeling is that while there is small areas of grass, water is needed on anything, even with trees, water is needed. I think at the beginning of the project, we were under the impression that there would be a little bit more use of DPW that could bill us. And I don't think that that's the case now. I'm under the impression that that's not something that's readily available for us to use. And so if that's the case, even more so, I think that watering should be in there. And, you know, if we're gonna have to hire these people to maintain or whatever, if we get the use of DPW labor that can build the DDA, then great. But if we don't, it's just saving us a lot of headaches down the line.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling is for, yes, do it now, do it while it's all tore up.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't really even think about it too much. I mean, it kind of always lingered with me, but then, you know, we had this drought, like 4 weeks without rain. And I'm like, I don't know, you know, we might get that
Yeah, it's
next
gonna
year.
turn
It might
yellow.
be an annual thing now.
It's
And you
gonna
don't
turn
need-
yellow.
You don't need a lot. To
Well-
Sam's point, you don't need a
Right.
lot. There's not a lot of places
So-
that it's necessary.
To that point, one of the issues is going to be that we're digging a sole standalone well, so we're not gonna have any filtration or anything on it. So I know from being a builder that 90% of homes end up being stained and, you know, with the iron and everything discolored. And when you're trying to water small spots, it's even harder to control it. So I wouldn't wanna put all this money into the park and all this concrete and all that, and then have, you know, half of this turn orange, half of that turn orange, half of that turn orange, you know, opposed to, so that is, cause then we're really kind of, you know, we've defaced all of our work by having it turn colors. So without even knowing what the condition of the well is, you know, the water that it's producing, and he can speak to this from the engineering company, there would be a risk of trying to, because if you do the little pop-up sprayers, you gotta have them along the sidewalk spraying away if you wanna protect your stuff.
Concrete.
So that means they're right along the concrete edges, which if they don't go, you know, can lead to their own set of problems. But my only concern would be any discoloration of the sign itself from the hard water or the concrete. So I would want to make sure that we're not saving the plants and defacing everything else that we won't maintain, and then it's always gonna look kinda not crisp, you know, and clean. So I don't know how to address that, but it would be a concern of mine, 'cause in the township, there's so much rusty water that, it's really hard to control that.
Sure. Gus, I didn't give you an opportunity to give your thoughts.
Sorry, Gus, I spoke twice.
We're used to it.
That's funny. But I was just thinking, maybe if we could ask the sportsman, the guy next door, if he can supply us with water, like we can connect to his, and maybe we can make some kind of commitment to him, you know, towards his bill. That would help.
Well, we got a well already going in.
You know, but what you mentioned about the well, that's mean you have to have a filter, and for you not to have.
Well, I think the well we're putting in is a hydrant style, right? So that it self-winterizes when you turn it off, and we can get water on the site from our own source.
It has to be winterized for the winter. It's a spigot style.
Hydrant,
with a-
right.
With cross pad, basically.
So that's gonna winterize itself when it gets shut off. The well itself, you know, I don't know how that if we have to have a pressure tank hidden in a box somewhere, or how that's gonna work, or we're doing on demand, you know, for the winterization part of it. But I was, you know, under the understanding that it was gonna be, you know, that we, with our own well, we were gonna put in a hydrant so that you could just lift up the handle like, you know, you see in the state parks. Hook a hose to it, water stuff, shut it off, you're controlling what's happening, you know what I mean? Now, if that's not the case, then what's the, you know, that's the only reason I would think the well would be, so we have water on site,
Right.
you know, which,
John?
yes.
Gus, were you done? Did you have anything else you wanted to add before he interrupts you?
No, that was just, you know, something different. I think we're spending all that money. I think definitely we need some kind of irrigation system there. Yes, it is a small park. We won't have a lot of like grass or just a lot of, you know, the other growing green species that we're gonna have there, but it still needs water.
Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I had a
Sorry.
question.
To the well, do you know anything about the well specifications or what it consists of, or are you familiar with what we're doing with the wellhead over there?
I'm familiar with where the well's going, I'm familiar with the spigot that's going in place.
Okay.
Relative to discoloration,
Well, no, but I mean, is that, what is it, we're proposing what I was what I was talking about, where we would have a water access hydrant that, on site?
yeah, it's basically a hose bib with a frost pad on it.
Right.
Okay.
So, Tim, I don't know if you can answer this question or if we need to get one of the landscape guys too, but to his point about the discoloration, are there any other options that wouldn't require us to spray? Are there any other type of, you know, watering devices that could
Like the
distribute?
leaking hoses
Yeah.
that just leak water around the bases of things?
Yeah, do you know if that's an option in an environment like this?
I'm sure there could be.
So what potentially what I'd like to propose is that we give NFE authorization to do some kind of a study to say, if we move forward with this, what options exist for us so that we could have some type of hydration there for the plants without necessarily the discoloration that might occur.
Towards the concrete.
Yeah.
Which is, it makes sense.
Do you think that would be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should find out if we add it to the job, is that gonna be, you know, all of a sudden now it's our fault that it took another month to get it done, you know?
I mean,
And then what are options to protect us from discoloration, like you're saying?
Yeah.
You
So
know, I think so.
I don't wanna necessarily start this fire, but yes, it was April when we said, let's go ahead and do this. However, we also did cause it to be April versus November of last year when we were supposed to vote on this. I would rather do a good job than do a quick job. And I know that differs from some construction stuff, but especially certain brands of construction. Anyway, so that's what I'd like to propose, is that we ask NFE, the experts, to come back. And I don't think that's Tim's area of expertise. I think, I apologize. No, the gentleman,
Steve.
the gentleman that was here last month with Steve, the landscape guy.
That's not
Oh, Chris.
this area either, we would have to reach out to a specific irrigation contractor that could provide that.
Well, Premier should know that, I would think, too.
Well, I asked NFE to reach out to Premier to see how much it would be to add irrigation, and they just threw a $25,000 number out there without any design or anything like that. So-
Yeah, that's just stupid.
So then yes.
We did get other numbers too.
Okay.
20,000 was another number
Mhm.
from another firm, irrigation specialist that we work with. In addition to that would be some design fee for designing the system, for the site.
Okay. So it sounds like it's gonna be.
That's crazy money.
What I think so.
Probably get a local guy to
For the time.
do it for half of that.
That's why I think, you know, it's something that probably could be designed and put in after the fact. I think Premier should probably focus on getting the park done.
Well, we could go through and make sure that when we prep the well, that is an anticipated thing, if anything would need to be done that would help us, whether it's a secondary valve coming off of the main well line that's capped that we would tie into other than the hydrant, or some other thing that would prevent that from being a big undertaking, you know, does that seem feasible? At least look into, would there be any prep that would be smart to do now opposed to later?
I mean, the well's supposed to be drilled and installed within a week,
Yeah,
give or take. It's really something that they may have to look at. I'm not aware of what is doable or not doable with that well design. The well installer is designing the well,
who's that?
I believe it's the little,
Okay.
Okay.
They're local.
So again, that was just meant to be a discussion point so that we, you know, can bring it up hopefully after the park is complete to see, you know, where we are, what we want to do differently. You know, it was something that we weren't talking about, and then when it got brought up, and then with the long drought, no rain and my grass turning yellow, I was like, we should probably talk about this. All right, very good. So, moving on, DDA Dixie Highway Pathway Enhancement Study. We kinda already talked about that. Project team is currently evaluating the board's input and development, preliminary concept level alternatives for further discussion. Concurrently, the team is coordinating with both the road commission and MDOT to better understand jurisdictional requirements and regulatory considerations that will influence the final design approach. This ongoing coordination will help ensure that future concepts are both responsive to stakeholders' goals and feasible within applicable agency requirements. So it sounds like they're working with MDOT and the Road Commission to then bring us back a design for the pathways, the safety pathways. Any questions on that? No. Okay. Next, landscape features design plans. Looks like Carla is looking to defer that to the September meeting, when they have a more robust plan for that. So line item I-2, facade improvement grants, written by CWA. I feel like we talked about this. This packet looks very familiar. We talked about the facade grant, we talked about the first year doing $25,000. We talked about different ways of doing it, 50-50 match. We could do some sort of loan. We agreed as a board that we were not gonna, you know, we'll give a grant, but we're not giving any funds until, you know, stuff is completed. We'll probably do a drawing where we you know, put out a blast, social media, mailing, say, hey, if you wanna be entered into this grant, then, you know, give us proposed ideas of what you wanna do. We as a board need to make those guidelines of what we want, so that's something that we still need to do, is make the guidelines of what needs to be acceptable. We probably don't wanna include flowers, we really wanna include the facade, and in here, there's a picture, and that was brought up at the last meeting, but just kinda showing how, you know, you take an old school look and you bring it new school, and that's part of your guys' packet.
Yep.
And we can see that all over, you know, southeast Michigan where plazas and stuff like that are getting a facelift. So this grant can really help to beautify our area, incentivize other businesses to put their own money into the community as well, which is gonna increase taxes, which is going to increase our TIF funding.
Question.
Yes.
I don't see anything further on the agenda that would require NFE. Can we release them to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
if
you're welcome to stay as our only member of the audience, but,
If you want to.
yeah.
If this is your evening entertainment and you're happy, you can
It's
stay.
getting ready to get real.
Yeah.
Have a good night, Tim.
We'll see.
Thank you.
All right. Any ideas, thoughts about the facade grant? Has anybody thought about, since the last meeting, are there certain guidelines that they'd like to see or not, see?
I only thought about it when I reviewed the packet,
Mhm.
when it came out, and I'm not against it. I know that we had some strong opinions last time we discussed it, but I think that if we come up with reasonable guidelines, based on the recent events, here's what I'm looking at is, we're gonna have a program that by November, we may not be able to fund anyway. And so, I don't have a problem with building the infrastructure of it
Mhm.
in the event that we do have the funds for it. I don't wanna say no to it just because. I believe that there are business owners or property owners along the corridor that would take advantage of this program, and they would step up and beautify if they had some type of incentive to do so.
Mhm.
And not every business owner along that stretch is filthy rich. They could use some help, and although I think it was argued that these funds would be nothing, to some business owners, these funds would be a drop in the bucket.
Significant.
That's not, it's a drop in the
Oh,
bucket.
oh,
But to
going the other way.
other business owners, it would be significant to be able to do something like this. And so I'm in favor of it. Of course, with proper guidelines, of course, because, yeah, I'm not in favor of paying for something that's gonna die at the end of the season. But I would be in favor of, there's plenty of businesses along that strip that I would love to see a facelift on, that they're just outdated. And a lot of them, the feedback that I get is, why should I when my neighbor won't? So this is just a little way to incentivize some of them to do so.
Sam?
I think it's great. I don't have any, we're not gonna be broke like the township would be if we didn't have the police millage. That's just a small percentage of our money.
About
That's-
18%.
Okay, but 18%, that's a small percent. It doesn't change any of my goals or objectives with 18% loss. That's not enough to change anything that we're doing.
Mhm.
And what you're not what we're basing it on right now is that we haven't revitalized, and we're basing it on a standard tax rate. Well, that's just a fictionary number. If the movie theater gets redone, if the old KSI building get done, if any of those get done, it's gonna make huge increments into our investment, you know? I don't think that we should have any discussion about reeling anything back over the millage money. I don't even think that applies to the DDA. That 18%, I'm saying, to me, it's not a significant amount, because
It's only a
this is,
fifth of the funding.
what's that?
You're right.
It's right, it's only a fifth of the funding, and there's a lot of funding. And we also have, this is a long-term investment in the corridor, so we might not have a millage for the first year or two, and then when the residents see the ramifications of it, it'll be brought back up to get had again. The township can't sustain with no police millage if people want police services. That's unsustainable. So either way, you know what I mean? It's still 18%. It's not gonna get, that's
Yeah.
over 10 years, it's a lot of money, but it's not enough that we can't afford to, put pocket parks and benches along, fix the light posts up, it's not going to affect any of the work we do. It may extend it one more year into the future, but it's not gonna stop us from doing any of the projects we wanna do, in my opinion. So I just don't wanna, I get it, but I don't wanna go down, I don't wanna change course, because we can make up that 18% with revitalization from our efforts by other buildings being revitalized, and more development coming, so that could get that 18, why are you smiling?
I just love setting you off.
I know. Well, I've been, this whole millage thing's been an ongoing thing, and it's like, I get it, and it's a lot different for us than it is for the township board as a whole. And again, the incremental part, we're collecting a very small amount of taxes from the residents who are in that corridor. So losing that amount of just the police millage, I think, is not going to, I just don't think that we should make our decisions based upon that might pass or might not pass, because we're already scheduling our big projects out into 27, 28, 29. A lot of stuff can still happen.
But
you know.
the reason I'm smiling is nobody said no, nobody said we shouldn't. What I said was we should move forward with the framework in the event.
Yeah, but my point is that in the event or not, we would have money for facade grants. We would have, just depending on the percentage maybe, or the cap, we have no more than $10,000 per project right now. No matter millage or not, that amount would still be available to us to offer as an incentive to somebody's building. I don't think it's 10,000 is enough, though.
So I think that's what Dave's asking is what would the framework look like? But
Similar to that, what he's saying here, I think in Dick's report, that a 50-50 match not to exceed, so we you know, I think you gotta be up around 25,000 to.
We talked about the first year
and-
being
and-
25,000.
Yeah, and Tara was, I think, in agreement with the commercial properties that, you know, her company owns, so I think that was a better incentive, because facades are expensive.
Anything's expensive now.
Mhm. Signs are expensive.
Signs,
everything's expensive.
everything, so I think we should move forward with it. I don't, this new forgivable loan program, that's kind of an interesting thing where, you know, you can help people out. I mean, the whole point of this is to revitalize Dixie, and if we don't do aggressive things to do it, and none of the stuff that's being proposed is cutting edge stuff. Lots of successful DDAs all over the country have used the same model, so,
Right.
it's gonna, you know, putting up a few flags and a couple of benches in a park, it's gonna be, we're gonna have a lot more money to spend than that, and we need to make the best bang for it, and I think that investing in buildings and facades is a good thing. I full-heartedly support it.
Kim?
This side of the table?
I'm all for it. I think time is not wasted if we make our framework, and if for some reason we decide not to spend the money to do it a particular year, it'll come up the next time, and we'll already have a jump on the start of it. So at the very least, we should create our guidelines and have it set in there ready to do when we're ready to do it.
Okay. I think with that being said, I think by next meeting, we should have guidelines, whether we discuss it with our individual subcommittees or whatever, just, you know, have some tangible things that we can put down, the do's and the don'ts. Because again, I don't want, you know, I don't want to putting a roof on somebody's property is not gonna increase the value. Everybody needs a roof. It's not gonna increase the, you know, the beautification of the corridor either. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's gonna have, whatever ideas we bring are gonna have to have that in mind of beautifying the corridor, or improving it and incentivizing other businesses to improve it. Gus?
Definitely. No, I'm with the idea. It's a great idea, especially owning a business on Dixie. If my neighbor beautified their buildings, you know, it's add to my investment as well too. So it's a plus.
Increases property value, increases
Absolutely.
tax revenue for the township, increases people's well-being of wanting to live in the community. I don't see any bad.
Yeah, do we wanna have, you know, Carl and Mortman just provide their stock guidelines, you know, at the
Yeah.
next meeting
Would be
and
a
ask for
start.
that? Yeah,
Would be a
so we don't,
start.
you know,
Yeah, they've already done most of the work. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
We can fine tune it with our wants or
Yeah.
what we feel we need to have in there, but, yeah, start as a start framework, I think it's a good idea.
that little bit, even though it's a little bit to people, is enough that it could make a difference in, as a building owner, whether I went one way or another, you know, or upgraded a product or added awnings or, you know, something that was a little more than my budget that I can make up with it. So I think we can get the word out, and if we knew that it was coming and it was a possible thing, we could start getting the word out. John and I are gonna be talking to a lot of the owners on the corridor, and I would like to, sooner than later, have just some information to say, this is what, even that we're considering this, and would you be interested in it? Are you potentially looking to do a facade redo, or why aren't you? Because we're gonna be meeting with them over logistical places to do beautification, so maybe we could add that to our discussions with them face to face and get kind of a feel, so when we come back to the next meeting, we'll already have some pretty good feedback on how the business owners feel about it and whether they would wanna participate or not. You know, or how much money they think it would take to push them over the edge or some stuff like that. You know, we can add that to our subcommittee findings,
Okay.
you know, sound good?
Yeah.
That's a great segue into our next agenda item, which is 3 subcommittees. And we'll start with property owner engagement, Sam and John.
Yeah, so I reached out to the township today to see if I could get a list of the actual property owners versus just the business owners, because a lot of them rent. I learned that I have to do a freedom of information request to get that information. I'll do that. But I think in the meantime, Sam and I have already discussed our strategy of just essentially going and knocking on doors and talking to the people that we know who own properties. I've already talked to Gus and he's on board. Whatever we want, he'll do it. So,
How come you didn't talk to Sam? He's across
My
from me.
stuff's already tight, man, you know? I didn't wanna say anything, but more people open the doors when I knocked than when John did. I don't know if that means anything or not, but.
well, they had shotguns.
You again.
So, we're working on it. We know a lot of the people in the township, so we're gonna put some miles down and bang on some doors. And we'll get a whole bunch of information to bring back
Okay.
to the board.
Yeah.
So part of your discussion with them is gonna be the facades. Did you guys put any thought into like the planter thing that we talked about?
Well, we have the design ideas that we went over.
Mhm.
So we're basically gonna also, you know, look at each parcel to be like, they look like they would have enough room outside of the right of way, this one, you know, kinda. So I think we should hit the
Yeah.
buildings that are in need of, some facelifting,
Uh-huh.
and then ones that have the obvious, property that's enough to accommodate, an architectural feature if we wanted to, get it, and then try to get an input from them if they would be willing to give us that, the easement or a parcel or a place to do it, I think is our goal, right?
Yeah, I think we've got 3 potential conversation pieces to have with them. The third one was added today when Carrie forwarded that tree
Mhm.
grant.
Yep.
So, but to Sam's point, we have to strategically target that. We don't wanna talk to Gus or Sam about trees when all they have is asphalt in front of their buildings.
Sure.
So target the businesses that could plant a tree, that could house a planter, and then unfortunately, I think the facade, am I saying that right, is it facade?
Facade.
More of the buildings are gonna qualify for that than aren't.
Sure. And for the planters, you know, I just had in my mind if it's like, you know, every, I don't know, every 50 feet or every 100 feet or something, like up and down, like it, you know, it makes the whole corridor look unified. It also kind of acts as a ballard, gonna protect the business. If somebody goes off the road and they hit it, they're gonna hit that and not the building. So,
Yeah.
it could work well for multiple different reasons.
Agreed.
So, since you brought it up, I did print that email. I'll read it real fast from Carrie. And it says, she wanted to pass along a grant opportunity from DNR and the DTE Foundation and Relief Michigan. It's offering up to a $4,000 grant. Applications are due by September 14th, and it's a 1-to-1 match. So I wasn't sure, and I didn't get a chance to talk to her if it's like $4,000 total. Because I mean, that seems like a lot of trees, right? So $8,000 essentially in trees. Eligible projects can include tree planting along streets, parks, and other appropriate public areas. So there's a link that was provided in the email. I think everybody was tagged, or most of us
Yeah.
were tagged. And so we should definitely make sure to apply. I'm sure there's stipulations of what we need to do to apply, maybe even including design. I didn't get that from the email, but we'll check out the link and make sure that we at least have a shot at it and don't
Yeah.
miss the
But,
opportunity.
yeah, and there's a deadline as well, so we'll be up against the clock to make sure that we can get the information to the property owners timely.
Okay.
Should some of our pocket park trees qualify for that, since we already have the design, we already have that? Could some of those be
It's a good question.
interactive with that?
I'll look into that.
That's a good option.
John, are you willing to check this out and see how we
Yeah.
can apply and, you know, it'll be before their next meeting, so we definitely wanna.
And you'll have a lot of the answers. If we could do that, we'd have our design, we'd have our trees, we'd have it all just submit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so next, corridor maintenance. So the idea about the corridor maintenance subcommittee was, you know, just driving up and down Dixie, it just looks, you know, some areas look pretty good, especially the areas with grass. Other areas look really disheveled, lots of weeds inside and between the concrete. And, you know, we've got the areas that have pavers, and pavers are known for getting weeds in them. So it was my vision to, you know, hire somebody to clean that all up, get the weeds out of there, you know, edge it along the sidewalk and grassy areas, and just have it looking more presentable. Because, you know, there's parts of it, like you walk over and you feel like you're kind of walking through a jungle, like over by the theater. It just looks like unwelcoming. Looks like you're going into a scary movie or something like that. So if we were to do that up and down Dixie, I did reach out to DPW because that was my first idea. Was I don't know if they maintain some areas, but there's grassy areas that get cut. So, and I feel like I've seen Independence trucks over there doing some sort of maintenance. So I did reach out. I think Dave McKee was on vacation. I followed up with him today. I didn't get a response. And then I did reach out to another a landscaping company to see if they can give us a bid. Was planning on doing, you know, I think we should at least do 3 companies or more of bids for that area. I don't have any idea how much it's gonna cost, so hopefully it's under our limit, because I do know that we have set limits where if it's below a certain price, then we can just move forward with it without having to go through the procurement policy. Gus, did you get a chance to speak
Yeah,
with anybody?
it was late today. I reached out to Golden Lakes Outlaw.
Okay,
So I looked them up. I did some, you know, check out their reviews before even I would be, you know, interested in their work. So they have a good reputation out there. They have a major staff. It's a very, you know, reputable company there in Waterford Township. And called them and I left them a message.
okay.
So how you want, you know, that's the next thing. How you want us to meet with them, or
Well, I mean, I just kinda
do I
told,
need to tell them about, you know, them coming here, like, and other companies to put the bid, or how?
as of right now, I just told the guy that I talked to, I said, this is the start of Dixie, this is the end of Dixie. You drive up and down, look at what you think it's gonna cost to, because that's their world, so.
Okay.
And give me an initial bid, and we'll figure out how to take it from there. I'm hoping that Dave, you know, responds to me too, and hopefully, I don't know, that seems like, in my mind, the appropriate way. The township hires DPW to take care of, you know, property, and if they have the manpower, great. If not, then that's understandable, we'll have to outsource it.
I saw those guys weed whacking a bunch of weeds between the curb and the concrete paved shoulder, which is not safety path, which is good, so they were hitting spots in between their spots of safety path. So I did notice that Dave has his crew did clean up some stuff that would not typically be right there in their wheelhouse,
Yeah.
but they were, I watched them do it, and it was good to see that they were taking care of some stuff that would have went unnoticed, I think, last year, that if we hadn't have brought this to light and made him aware of it, that, you know, it's really the stuff between the grass and the sidewalk, where there's paved shoulder and you get those tall weeds growing right by the curb, you know, and they were knocking those down, which hadn't been getting done, so I do wanna give Dave his crew some kudos that they've gone above and beyond what we used to do in the definition of safety path, so that's, I think that everyone's starting to get the idea of what we're trying to do. It's not, they didn't do the whole thing, you know, but at least, people are being more conscious of it, you know,
Yeah.
of our goal.
Yeah, I think for a long time, that section has just kinda gone to the back burner of just like, that's such a big undertaking, and it's, you know, there's so unkept that we're just gonna leave it alone. We'll focus on Sasha and other areas. So, I'm glad to hear that. But we'll get some, people that, you know, can give us a realistic bid. It's my goal to have it done before fall. So, hoping by next, meeting, we can, present things, maybe vote on some things so that we can get it done and, you know, at least have it looking good. And then it would be my future goal to maybe hire these people every, you know, by month or
Once, yeah,
quarter or
once
something.
every few months.
Yeah, because it's gonna keep happening, especially until we get new safety pets in. So that's all we have for that.
I think you just gotta be a little careful, about the bidding, and so that it's followed the guidelines. Because you don't wanna get your quotes and then have a back step like we had before and start all over again, and then have to review them all and get them all out, you know.
Well, that was a
Same.
much larger amount of money, right? So
It
there's.
was, but you don't really know what this one's gonna cost you either.
Should really generate an RFP,
Mhm.
they, you know, just,
Just cover
like you're saying, you know,
yourself.
have it on paper, we're looking at between the curb and the road, not people's private grass, like, you know, just kinda, parameters
So
and
you're
then.
telling everybody the same exact thing.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Also.
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
At some point, we'll have to put an RFP out with requirements of what you would need to take on the project, and then this goals and objectives and all of that, so, you know, so that's something that you gotta go with it.
Yep, you're right. Okay, Kim, do you have anything from the crosswalk paint?
No, I haven't talked with Tara about it. Just going off the discussion of last month and the sites, the immediate 4 sites that we were looking at as far as the better markings go, and creating a new, like, crosswalk there at White Lake. I'm assuming we just will get with MDOT or Road Commission, one or the other, depending on what road you're talking about, because they have to do the work, right? It's not like you can contract that out.
I don't know about that.
we
I think
can.
that MDOT would probably say, if you guys wanna spend money on our roads, as long as they are okay with it.
Yeah, so we'll have to work in conjunction with them, is my thinking.
Yeah, I think you just probably need permission from them, but that's, you know, that would be my first step, would be talking to somebody from MDOT to
They're gonna have. a-
find out what their guidelines are, what they need. It's probably, you know, they need to be, you know, 1 foot by 1 foot or whatever it is. So then we got a starting point to then,
Is MDOT in control of both White Lake Road and Dixie Highway?
No.
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 One of them
I
is
think isn't
county.
it county road, isn't one of them?
MDOT
MDOT.
is Dixie,
Dixie.
Dixie, and then
And
I
Road
believe,
Commission.
Oakland County Road Commission is White Lake, and
That's what I thought it was.
the
but-
state, M15 is,
State, yeah.
is the state, so that'd be
Yeah.
another MDOT road, I think, but, they would be able to provide you with a list of contractors that are pre-approved, just like the paving, when you do paving for county roads and state, they have approved contractors, so they're gonna give
Yeah.
you it would be subbed out, I'm pretty confident, it's just a matter of which one of the companies they would, that's on their list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, so I think that the Dixie and White Lake Road intersection should probably be the last of our concerns. It's gonna get all dug up anyway, so
Right.
it's kinda silly to paint it.
But we do wanna discuss with them what we're looking at what we want, so they can incorporate that into that project.
Exactly, so it matches and stuff. Or maybe they already have a plan, like this is what it's gonna look like, and then you just copy that.
Go, yeah, I love it.
But definitely, you know, at Main Street, and then definitely the 2 at maybe, and that's really,
Yeah, those are the big
that's
ones.
really it. So, that would be the main intersections to
Dave.
focus on, yes.
I just want to add, Kim, when Dave and I went through the process of getting approval for the banner, flags, signs, whatever we're calling them, we learned that the MDOT supervisor who's responsible for this area actually lives in Clarkston, and we have their contact information, so if you want it, I can provide it to you.
Okay, please,
Yeah.
yeah, please, that'll give me a starting point anyways to call.
Perfect. All right. Moving on, line item D, the design guidelines for Dixie Highway, status update, that's what we added. Line item 4,
Yeah, I think it was 4, not D.
not D. So, the Dixie Highway design guidelines continue to be under development. Chris Nordstrom and Keeley, St. Andrew, completed a site walkthrough to gain a better understanding of the existing condition along the corridor and met with the steering committee to gather the input in late June. CWA also collaborated with Noack and Faust on presentations from the DDA in July. The presentations focused primarily on existing conditions and how the safety path configuration would be impacted by the constraints of the site. CWA showed how design considerations would help to establish an identity for the corridor while enhancing safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Based on the information gathered at the 2 meetings, we feel we have a good understanding of the DDA's concerns and are incorporating them into a draft document. We anticipate having a draft available for board review prior to September's meeting.
Cool.
The only thing I really liked in that presentation was the safety path that had the dotted lines, and I saw that sometime since the last meeting, where it had like, almost had like a passing lane, like if you're on your bike, you could pass, walking people, so. And they talked about it, but I saw it practically, I can't remember where I was, but it looked pretty good, so. We'll have that for next meeting. And now we have line item I-5, the DDA relevance, essentially. So the relevance of the DDA, it was created in the 90s, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Originally, I think it
Yes.
goes back to the late 80s or 90s.
Went
Yeah.
went dormant, and just before it was about to expire, it was brought back to
Life.
to the township to say, hey, if we're gonna, we tried to do this before, it didn't really, it kind of stalemated. We got together a bunch of volunteers and board members from the township and created it. The Carlisle Whitman group kind of explained it to us of what the stipulations would be and how that we would use TIF funds or tax incremental funding or financing to fund the DDA. And so what that essentially means, and Sam kind of explained it a little bit earlier, of as we improve the corridor, businesses are going to sell, house buildings are going to reassess at their value. The ones that sell are going to uncap, and we will be able to capture some of that taxable revenue to then put money back into the corridor. It's no surprise to anybody in the township that lives here or driven through that Dixie Highway is, I don't want to call it an eyesore, but there's areas of it that are, that don't look great, We want to improve it. We want, not necessarily to compete with, neighboring communities, but we want the people that live here to be able to drive down that section and enjoy it. And so the DDA was put together to beautify that area. The first big project that we started that's gonna hopefully be started is the Pocket Park. It should have been started already, and we're trying to have grace and be understanding. But I think what we can all agree, once it's up, we'll be like, all right, we finally got a project done.
It's gonna be big.
It's gonna be big, it's gonna be great, it's gonna look beautiful. So it's our goal and it's our task to continually improve Dixie Highway and the offshoots of the corridor to incentivize not only, you know, the community as a whole to, you know, love where they live, but also to incentivize more business, more growth. There's a couple businesses that are empty on Dixie Highway. If we put enough of, you know, taxpayer funds back into the community, if we beautify the places around it, studies have shown that, you know, new businesses will want to come in. They're going to, you know, then improve that area. They're going to put a safety path in front of their area. And then the end goal, I think, would just be to have that continually grow, and to where at some point Dixie Highway looks, you know, just as good as Sashabaw does. And it's not going to happen overnight, but that's why the DDA exists, is to improve the corridor on Dixie Highway.
Well done.
That was off the rip.
I know, I
That
didn't
was
talk
off
to you
the
about
rip,
this
man.
before. I told you that I would, but I didn't.
But you brought it up.
Yeah.
So what has your feedback been from the committee, or from the community? Because it seems like, I mean, we don't get, we've had how many meetings? We've been doing this for 2 years. Nobody shows up to these meetings. They're
They are
encouraged to.
televised.
I'd love for them to come. I would love for community engagement. But it seems like, you know, ever since the August election for the increase in the millage, and that being voted down, that, I don't follow everything on Facebook. It may seem like I do, but there's, you know, some people that are like, well, why are we trying to raise money and, you know, why are you using some of the money for this DDA, and, you know, what is a DDA? So a lot of people just don't even know
Yeah.
what we're doing. So you know, can you like sum up what the feedback's been?
Yeah, so I try to stay away from Facebook as much as possible. It's become a site just for angry ranting. But in the conversations that I'm having with people who openly admit they voted against it, what they're saying is they felt that the fine print at the bottom was deceptive. They don't trust government, they don't want to pay more in taxes. And, you know, Sam summed it up to say millage overload or millage exhaustion.
Fatigue.
The millage fatigue, yeah. So here's the problem with that is that disclaimer is going to be there whether we like it or not, because it is being disclosed to the voter that a percentage of your taxes is being captured and held here. And, you know, another point that Sam made earlier when I was arguing with him about this was, we're gonna get taxed either way. Whether that millage goes through or not, the portion that's being captured is still going to be captured. The DDA and the CIA exist so that we can keep some of that money here. If the money doesn't stay here, it doesn't mean it stays in the pocket of the taxpayer. It goes to the pocket of Oakland County and gets used on whatever Oakland County wants to use it for. We hope that they use it for our roads in our township, but we have no control over where that money goes. The DDA and the CIA give us that control, and of course, all of the empty seats here at every meeting. So part of the discussion at the last township board meeting was, how do we do a better job of educating the voters to what they're voting on? Because we can never stop that disclaimer from showing up to say, hey, by the way, this is where part of your money goes. Voting against a police or a fire fund, it just baffles me. And I'll go as far as to say, if you've ever been to Portland, that's what we're gonna create here if we don't fund our police and firefighters.
In fairness, just to segue, I truly believe that there was 3 millages on that.
There was.
So I think a lot of people group those as a whole, is you want to increase my taxes, I already pay a whole bunch of money in taxes. Being in real estate, I know that one of the most unaffordable things is, you know, or the reason why people are feeling homes are unaffordable is interest rates and taxes.
Correct.
And so at, you know, first glance, probably a lot of the community was thinking, this is a money grab, I already pay enough in taxes, you get enough of my money. So I don't think that they were voting to not have that, at least not intentionally. I think it
You're
was a
right.
lack of information, and from what I know also in the business that I do, is people say no to what they don't understand. And
Correct.
So, and that's exactly what we saw. People said no, they said, what is this small print? Something that we might not even need, because there's probably plenty of people in the community that don't know what the CIA is and don't know what the DDA is. So, that's to the board and, again, community leaders to
Yeah.
inform and educate people.
Yeah, so, and Dave, you're absolutely right, and there are some educated voters who understand exactly what's going on, and they have said, I don't want any more money spent on this, I don't want any more money spent on that. And they have specifically called out the Downtown Development Authority, they've called out Dixie, they've called out Sashabaw, and some of them have said, we didn't make that big of a difference in what we did on Sashabaw. I wasn't here before, I moved here after that, I don't know what it looked like before.
It was a two-lane
It
road.
was a huge
Yeah,
difference.
I'm not arguing it, but I'm just saying, there are some lifelong taxpayers who have said, what you did wasn't worth it. But what I want to communicate to those voters and those taxpayers is, you may not like what was done, but the tax dollars are coming out whether you like it or not. And these seats are still empty. And so today I did go to Facebook and I did post on 2 different sites that you have 3 ways to get involved. You can come here and have your voice heard, and if you don't like what you hear, you can present ideas on how the money will be spent. You can log into the Teams meeting, which nobody's there either, and you can still voice your opinion, or you can watch on YouTube. There's so many ways to get involved and to educate yourself, but we're choosing to angry rant on social media instead, or to vote down something that at the time was not a tax increase, it was a extension of what was already there. It is now, as I understand, in November going to be an increase.
It was an increase. We asked for an increase.
Did you?
Originally,
Okay,
yeah, a small increase. You done?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm just.
I'm amazed. that
First
you're
of all,
straight.
John, thank you for sharing that, because
Yeah.
I don't follow the forums, especially for that reason. And maybe I should, but it seems like a lot of anger, ranting, and thank you for sharing also that, if people really want to have their voices heard, they should come and, speak openly to us and to the public, because, those are valid reasons to not want, their taxes to be increased. I don't know anybody that wants their taxes to be increased, but I also know that if you're going to be spending taxes, I'd rather see it where my money's going instead of not see it, right? I don't wanna see it, stored up in some slush fund. If you're gonna take my money to put in the community, let's see it in the community, and that is one thing that we are actively doing.
Yeah. And just one thing, what I don't wanna do is, I don't wanna run down the decisions that are gonna be made at the county level. We all have friends who serve on those boards as well, and who are doing a fine job, I'm sure. My argument is not what they do with it, my argument is, if we have a chance to capture it and keep it here and spend it on our own community, that's what I'm fighting for. Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Sam.
I just want to make some points, because we're, as a board member, we're trying to get the information out. So if this is a venue and somebody's can't sleep at night and they be watching a DDA meeting, maybe we can get in their head on what's going on, Everyone I talk to that's pissed off about it, by the time I'm done explaining it, understands it and is going to vote for the police millage. Okay, but the biggest understandings are that, couple main points I want to make. The township gets 23% of all taxes collected, okay? And out of that 23%, 80% of that is the police and fire millages, and the other 20% is what we operate the whole entire township operations off of: parks, rec, facilities, the board, everything. So it's 20% of 23%. So when people accuse us of being wasteful and taking too much money, what I can say is that of the 20% we control, the general fund money, the taxes the township operates itself on, for the first time in the history of the township, we voted this year not to increase it, the 3% or cost of living limits that we have. So that went unnoticed, that small percentage that we didn't raise it, because we didn't need the money. So we said, well, why would we raise it if we don't need to? Assuming, then the second part of my conversation is gonna be is that the millage has passed every single time since, I think, 1991. So the township got a little lazy, thinking that the residents who live here understood that that was the only funding mechanism for the police. I myself did not know that. I thought that your taxes covered basic safety, fire, police, and everything else. Even I didn't know that there is no money for any of that, because the township by state law is not mandated to provide those services. So the biggest thing is that, it wasn't an increase, but it wasn't a new tax. That was one thing. If you don't think that things go up, then you're living under a rock. So if the county's anything goes up, the prices go up. If anyone thinks their taxes are ever going to go down, they're delusional. That will never happen. We can prevent them from going up faster, but they're certainly never going down, because we only get 20% of that after we pay for safety services. So that's a thing, you know, and I was blown away by that. I think that it should be in our taxes, and you should get those protections in your taxes. It wouldn't change how much your taxes are today if they were just included and we didn't have millages. You'd still be paying the same. The problem is the subcontracting of the sheriff's department is going up 10% every year. So if it was in our regular tax collection, we're only allowed by state law to raise it 3% or no more than the cost of living. I think, and I'm not expert on this, so everything I say is what I think is correct, okay? So don't hold me to anything, but you get the basic gist of the point, is that we wouldn't be able to increase the taxes legally at the rate that we're being charged by the county to cover the cost. So therefore, the millage gives you that flexibility to move fluidly through cost increases and cost reductions by whether you raise a millage or keep it level. And then after so many years, there's a thing called the Hadley rollback, and that makes it where we collect a little bit less at the end. So we have to load up the first couple years with enough to cover the last 4 years. And what we agreed to with the new price increase, which averages about $100 a year for a $400,000 home in the township, is that we think that that's just enough to cover it for the next 4 years. The fire millage is coming up in 2 years, so we didn't want to go for a 2-year millage and then have it come up at the same time as the fire millage, because then we're in the same boat. We could have covered the cost with the extra money we have, but then when the millage runs out in 4 years, we're not gonna be asking for a small increment of $100. We're gonna be asking for the taxes to go up, could be potentially $300 or $400. And then it's even a harder sell to educate people on the fact that we're just trying to cover our costs. So there was a lot of that discussion. It's on the August 10th Township Board meeting, in full explanation, everything we're talking about. For anyone who wants to watch that video, you'll get the real story on it. You know, so our job is to educate people on actually what it is. And once you explain how little we actually manage, it takes off that, oh, you're wasting all my money. No, that's the county and state that's wasting all your money. And the southern subdivisions who outpopulate the 11 townships have enough votes to fund mass transits, which we'll never see, the zoo that isn't near us, Oakland University that isn't here, the county itself, all of the taxes they collect, and any other tax base that's there. So
The thing
that I just mentioned is all stuff we don't get to control, whether we pay more or not, or you get the tax. You know, other communities have enough people to pass those, and we're just ignored.
Is that the 77% that you didn't mention? You
Yes,
said we control.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, we control 23% of the, of what we collect. The 77% is completely out of our hands. So it's such a small amount. And then the other part that's really important is that with the DDA and everything, is that it only affects the residents who actually live in those properties, which people think it was a township-wide amount of money that was being redistributed to the DDA and the CIA, and that's not true. It's only for the people who benefit, who are in that corridor where that capture, and like John alluded to, if we didn't have a DDA and we were that little increment of money that the taxes has gone up for business owners since 2023, we wouldn't be capturing that percentage of the 77% that we're reinvesting in our community, that we aren't sending to the mass transit, to the zoo, and to everyone else. So the cash win and the investment, the DDA is a win for the township to keep every penny that the 77% that's going out, to keep some of that money back home. And once you kind of go through the numbers and you explain it to people and they kind of understand it, I've gotten a very positive response on understanding that, yeah, the county's kind of screwing us. They added 10% for the next 3 years on the police. They didn't give us a good enough explanation for it, but we're at the mercy of that. And for the people who think that we can just go get our own police force, don't think we haven't been also looking at that, but the numbers don't work. We're paying $8 million a year for the sheriff's department protection and all of their resources, and if we went out on our own, we'd be looking at a minimum of 10 million. So they haven't, probably by design, overcharged us to the point to push us over the edge and look at other resources and grouping up with other communities and the other townships and having our own police force created. So, that's the reason why we're kinda, we're stuck, we're stuck. And, the other part I wanna make aware to people while I'm talking about it is that it's not that, we don't have $8 million in the budget, so something's gonna give. You're gonna give up police or some form of police. I don't think we would ever get to the point where we only go to the state police, because that's what would happen if we had no police. We'd have to rely on the state police like Rose Township and Groveland, where who knows how long it takes to respond. But that is an option. They're obligated to take care of us if we don't wanna spend the $8 million. So where does that offset come from? It's gonna come from the parks, who's funded by the general fund, because we don't have a parks millage. I personally wish we had a parks millage and the police and fire were in our taxes, and that millages were for luxury items like the zoo and all that, but that's not how townships are set up, that's how cities are set up. So, that's another, informational piece that I think people miss out on,
I think
so.
Gus had a question.
Yes, sir.
Out of the 77% the county collect, what percentage it goes into our DDA?
Well, out of the 77%, again, these numbers are always fluid because it changes daily by people uncapping their tax base by selling buildings and then more, so it's really based upon the revitalization and the uncapping of the properties of our district. So that's a really hard fluid number, but if a building right now is paying $20,000 a year in taxes and they've been there for 30 years and they sell it tomorrow and now they're gonna pay $60,000 in taxes, we're gonna capture that difference. And imagine that we're gonna capture that 23% and we're gonna capture the 73% that would go with that. So that's how the numbers get big.
I see.
Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what we're after, is to keep the money at home. So that's, but even if I would say only vote for millages that have to do with Independence Township if you're tax weary, or tired. The problem with that is that we get outvoted by the populations in the southern subdivision or southern communities so it's hard for us to block that. We've tried to opt out, like we wanted to opt out of the mass transit, 1.8 million I think we spend on that. And I got a call from the mass transit, who basically said, we have no intentions of ever providing you with that service, you're just providing that service to the southern communities. So, but we lost the vote, we all wanted to just try to get out of it, but they won't let us. So there won't be another DDA, I'm pretty sure, and there probably will never be another CIA, because the county now has taken the stance that they're not willing to give up all that money to help communities support themselves. So this is, when you talked about starting the DDA, that was under Jose, it was expiring and we had to renew it, or the county wasn't going to give us a new one. And we did, and I recruited a lot of the people that were on this board and went door to door and got it started back up. There was a deadline, when we did it, and it was all about that capture. So it's a win-win for the DDA. We just gotta let people understand that the funding of it doesn't change your taxes. It's not gonna make the bill for the police less. It's not gonna change anything, but the lack of it is gonna have an effect on how much we can invest back in the community, which has been proven in all other communities. That investment sparks investment, that sparks revenue, that makes everybody more money, that helps the township in the long run, and it keeps that 73% of that incremental financing away from the county and all of their fluff programs that we're paying for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little deeper than I had planned to go, but yes, it makes sense.
Sometimes you can't go too deep because people
Yeah,
gotta see the whole picture, so I'll probably have that speech really dialed in by the time November comes around, because we're kind of obligated now to get out there in front of everybody and every opportunity, try to educate everybody on what's going on, because it's all misperceptions, and we're gonna teach the county a lesson and not approve it. No, you're just gonna hurt us. That's what's gonna happen.
yeah.
The county doesn't care. That's proven.
Any other comments? Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that it's, like I said, a lack of understanding, and so if we can help people understand, whether they still vote no, at least they have an understanding, and they have the discernment to make their own decision based on the knowledge that they have. So, if there's no other discussion, we've got J, public comment, which nobody's here. And then I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Great meeting, guys.